Hello, and welcome to the North Coast Journal Preview. This is a show where we take a look at what's coming in the current edition of the North Coast Journal. I am your host, Tanya Shrum, and we are joined by North Coast Journal's managing editor, Jennifer Fumiko Cahill. Welcome.
Hey, Tanya.
Hey, having a great week? Got a little rain. You know I love that.
I knew that you would be absolutely just flourishing in the post-humidity actual rainfall.
I managed to get all of my chores done, and as soon as I was finished with work, I ran around in the rain. I loved it.
I know that the day before the rainfall hits, both you and I experience a humidity hair that makes it difficult for us to get into small spaces. To drive, to have peripheral vision.
Smooth it down.
But it finally rains. It's a good thing.
I also ran around like a mad woman that day because I was like, mow the grass, move everything that can't get wet. Oh no, it's quicker. I was not expecting rain till Halloween.
but we are in like a very humble season of fun period right now. We're about to get into like North Country Fair and all that stuff. So we got to get this rain out of the way.
Well, we have a little bit more coming over the weekend and then maybe back to the late summer.
Right on.
Well, and we also have a chock full of great stuff in this week's journal. And we're going to start off with all of the drama, double the drama.
I know, but the good kind of drama.
The drama that we need. The distraction drama. And so we have Durana Benker-Gilkey to thank for our articles.
You may have seen Durana's name in theater reviews in the past, and she has done a lot of them for us. And she is... I don't know. There should be some sort of award, a sort of a minor Tony for theater critics who are willing to go to multiple plays in a weekend, because she ran around this weekend and she had an emotional roller coaster because she went to see Redwood Curtain's What the Constitution Means to Me, which is at the 5th and D Street Theater, formerly North Coast Repertory Theater, now NCRT shares the space with Redwood Curtain, you may recall. So that is a 3-person show, but mostly it's one woman talking to the audience. And it's a very intense show. On the other side of the county, she went down to Ferndale, to the Ferndale Repertory Theater, to see a very wacky backstage play. A backstage comedy, meaning we are watching a play about people putting on a play. And I got to tell you, editing this review was not easy because I was trying to figure out who was who. And Durana was saying she kept a chart. She had like a little note thing because you are paying attention to who, let's say Bob Smith, the actor that you know and works at the shop down the street from you in Ferndale. Bob Smith might be playing Tom Jones, and Tom Jones might be playing 2 characters in the play. So there's a lot of back and forth, and people sub in to be the same character. There might be multiple people playing them, and it's just very chaotic. So that is the play that goes wrong down at Ferndale Rep. So Durana was bouncing between. And I will start by saying you may have read about What the Constitution Means to Me in last week. I did an interview with a couple of the folks connected with the play, the director Peggy Metzger, the star of the show, and there are 3 people, I should say, who star in the show. As I said, it's a 3-person show, but it feels like a 1-woman show for much of it. Natasha Samuelson is playing, this is complicated too. she is playing the playwright, who is Heidi Schreck. Heidi Schreck wrote this as a very autobiographical piece, and so she's playing, or originally on Broadway, she played herself as a 15-year-old girl doing these competitions where she would, for the American Legion, go and do these debates and talks about the Constitution and what the Constitution means to me. And that's how she paid for college. That was a scholarship event for her, and she toured the country doing this. So she's talking partly as her 15-year-old self, and then talking about herself as a grown woman and as the woman who wrote this play. So Natasha Samuelson is playing Heidi Schreck, reminiscing about her 15-year-old self, her current self, and talking about the Constitution, not just in, it sounds like it's going to be like a really sweet Schoolhouse Rock situation, but she is talking a lot about the value of the Constitution, of our rights, of our protections. Watching them stripped away currently in 2025 makes this more poignant, I must say. And talking about the places where the Constitution has not protected us, specifically women. And she talks a lot about the history of violence against women in this country, the ways in which it has been basically rubber stamped by legislation and by a lack of punishment. And that includes historically throughout the country, but also in her own family. And she talks about the ways in which the Constitution has not taken care of people of color, in particular women of color. And throughout the whole play, there is also this one male presence who is the Legionnaire, who is played by William English III. And then there is a young woman who is a Eureka High student, and she is a debater. Her name is Brooklyn, and she is a Eureka High debate team member, and this is not her first rodeo. As you will see, she's a very confident young woman, and at the end, they have a debate about whether or not to keep the Constitution, or should we scrap it and start over. It's really fascinating, and particularly now, it's a wild time to be thinking about it. So that was a very spare show with, like I said, 3 people, and just very focused and very intense. There are funny moments, but there are also really gut-wrenching moments. On the other side of town, over at FRT, where I also sent Aoife Maloney, beloved photographer frequently for the Journal, to go and photograph this play. And the play that goes wrong, as I said, it's very slapsticky, very doors are slamming, the play is going wrong. People are screwing up their lines, furniture is breaking, props are in the wrong place, the wrong person is coming out here and there, actors are getting distracted and being like, oh, look at all these people out here. So there are characters within characters, and it just doesn't even seem like, they ask at some point, like, are we going to make it to the end of this show? Will the show go on? And Durana has a great review of this and about the comedy, the timing, the physical comedy of people falling over things. There's a guy who plays a corpse, and you can imagine how that might go wrong. And there are more than one spit take in this play. If you enjoy like a sort of Monty Python-ish mystery vibe, this is the play for you.
I do.
I know. And, along with Durana's endorsement of this, Aoife texted me halfway through the play, and she was like, this thing is hilarious. I was glad. I was like, thank goodness. At least I didn't send her to go shoot something boring. But it looks like we've got basically 2 different plays. I know it's really
both
amazing
meta.
that right?
And
they're both
maybe
meta.
one is a nice palate cleanser from the other, so maybe you
Right?
should see them both.
I mean, it depends on which you want to finish with, right? But I think the cool thing about our county having so much drama, so much theater, is that we have two plays going on at the same time that are so wildly different. There's something for everybody, but I also think if you are a person who likes to see live theater, you should just go see both. I personally wish that they were timed in such a way that they don't open at the same time. I would like to be able to schedule better. It's hard for me to book 2 nights for this kind of thing, but it's absolutely worth it. And they have a masked showing too. It's really worth going and looking at the schedule and seeing where you can fit it in. Friday or Saturday evenings, matinees, both shows have this. And I strongly recommend checking them out and reading Durana's reviews so you can get a sense of what you want to see. And again, if you want to go back and read more about the background of the play and what it was like to put it together, go back and look at my story from last week, What the Constitution Means to Redwood Curtain Theater.
Excellent. Well, thank you for covering that, Jennifer. And we're going to pivot to some of the effects that the Constitution has on our local community and what we can do to support our local community with a report by Griffin Mancuso and regarding what's going on at Central del Pueblo.
Yes. And boy, if you want to talk about a group of people who are not feeling very protected by the Constitution right now, it is people of color, and specifically people who are not official citizens or people who are undocumented, people who are residents, and particularly Latinx people who are being basically racially profiled, grabbed by ICE in the streets. It is not only a problem for those people who are being picked up and having essentially their rights violated and being deported, not necessarily with due process. It's not only a problem for those individuals, it is a problem for everybody. If you are, for example, a member of an easily profiled community, or if your immigration status is not 100% done deal U.S. citizen, and let's remember that naturalized citizenship is lately on the table. If the 14th Amendment is not as safe as we would like it to be. If you are a person who is undocumented, or if your citizenship is something that's in progress, this is a really scary time. And as Centro del Pueblo's executive director, Brenda Perez, says in her interview with Griffin Mancuso, hey, Griffin, new writer for our paper, by the way. It's Griffin's first time in our paper. Be nice to him, everybody. So, as she points out, after the 2016 election, there was a real fear that rippled through particularly immigrant and Latino communities. And that has been revived under the second Trump presidency. It has gone even harder, honestly, since ICE is going harder, walking out in the streets masked, as I said, picking people up, etc. So the separation of families is playing the biggest role right now, impacting our mental health. So accessing other places is out of the map for our communities, is what Perez says. And you can imagine, right? If you are part of a marginalized community like immigrant communities right now, it can be really scary. And you might not want to go to the hospital. You might not want to, as somebody pointed out, you might not want to go get the services that you normally get. You might be scared to go pick up medication. You might be worried about accessing health and community services in all kinds of directions. At one point, someone that Griffin interviews says that people are terrified to go to the hospital, to go to the doctor, to go to work, to take the kids to school. And that's a real concern. I have interviewing folks who work in restaurants, particularly all over the county and from all over the world, had people who were concerned in the last 7 years about using their full name when I'm interviewing them about something perfectly innocuous, because they're like, yeah, things are really sketchy with immigration right now. And even though I have a green card, I don't feel safe.
Well, and it's been documented time and time again that folks are afraid to report actual crime.
That's right. It creates a real problem for law enforcement, honestly, because why would you step forward if you thought they were going to lock you up? So, del Pueblo has a new health fund called Mano Amiga, Helping Hand. And it launched on July 1st, and it is part of a health and wellness service by the nonprofit. So Centro del Pueblo is a nonprofit advocacy group. You might see them at everywhere in Humboldt, and they do lots of stuff from events for community celebrations to fundraising to mutual aid stuff. It's really quite impressive. And this fund is actually provided, the initial funding for it came from an anonymous donor who just saw what was going on and was concerned and worried about people not getting health care, basically because they're concerned about going out, seeing a doctor, etc. And also all of this extra stress and mental anxiety and everything else that people are going through in this time. The applications for the program can be accessed through Centro del Pueblo's website and social media accounts. You can find them on Facebook and Instagram. They have a robust social media presence. You can't miss them. It's important to note that, as Griffin includes in the story, on January 1st, California became the first state to offer Medicare for all undocumented immigrants. But that got yanked back. At the end of June, Governor Gavin Newsom, and the state legislature agreed to freeze new enrollments for adults without documentation. So this has left a lot of people in the lurch. And so a healthcare fund becomes even more vital in those circumstances. And I really urge everybody to read this story. Of course, if it affects you and your community, please read it because you need to know about the help that is available. But I really strongly recommend everybody read it to get a better handle on what the effects are beyond the surface, beyond the videos that you're seeing on Instagram of scary things happening in the streets. There are other things that we don't see below the surface and things that are affecting communities. It's really worth learning about.
Absolutely. And if you have the ability to donate or to donate your time, I would reach out to them wholeheartedly.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting group that touches a lot of different aspects of life in Humboldt County.
And we should be supporting them. And I can't say enough that if you can look inside your heart, maybe you would feel the same. And with that, maybe we need a drink.
Do we have a few minutes left to talk about Pale Moon Brewing Company?
I believe we have about 5 minutes, so we can cozy up to the bar.
Another new writer for us this week. Hey, Michael Kraft.
Which
welcome
I think
aboard.
Is great, talking about craft beer.
Right? It's a little bit... Listen, I was tempted to... Should we make it a column and call it craft beer?
Craft
Is
beer?
Is it too much? Is it too on the nose? Michael Kraft, who I met just recently and who is delightful. And we were talking about some writing options and whatnot. And I asked him what he was into. And he was like, well, I've been a home brewer. And I was like, really? And we've had several people write about beer for us in the past, but beer is big in Humboldt County, and I am always excited to have folks who want to cover this whole other world of food and drink that is our local beer and our local breweries. So you may have heard of a microbrewery, and we've got those on the North Coast. Jeff Finn at Pale Moon Brewing Company is considered a nano brewery. Teeny tiny brewery. And interestingly enough, you know how when you go out and you are sampling flights of beer and you're like, this one is raspberry and this one is watermelon and this one has, I don't know, cigar smoke in it. He makes what he refers to at some point as beer-flavored beer.
The classics.
The classics. Remember when beer used to taste like beer? I'm not against, schmancy beer, just like I like a schmancy coffee. but it is his mission. And I do love when people have their thing that they must do. And this is his mission in beer. And I liked what Michael Kraft said about it. He said, as a home brewer, I've come to think about going from making a good beer at home to launching a beer business is akin to being a good golfer and launching a country club. Because talk about a different business.
I like that analogy, yeah.
Right? But Jeff Finn started out home brewing, started working at breweries, including Lost Coast, Eel River, and then he decided, I want to do my own thing, and he got a business loan and just started this very, very tiny operation. And having a tiny operation, he talks about some really great ways that allows you to be flexible. And it allows you, he says at one point, I've never brewed the same beer twice, not at Pale Moon Brewing, because he doesn't have to. He's not sending it to a bunch of distributors and supermarkets where they're like, hey, the beer is different this time. He doesn't have to keep the recipe exactly the same. He can play around, he can experiment, he can do something different, which also means that when you go, there will always be something different for you to try, which is sort of fun.
Absolutely. And you get a different gravity each time for those of you that are interested in the bottom line.
That's true. And he does also say that it's a friendly place. Like Michael Kraft's feeling was when he went in there, he talked to his friend there. It wasn't so noisy. He could hang out. And then he also talked to some new people. But the owner also pointed out that an important thing for him, and we were talking a little about this before, Tanya, an important thing for him is that this is also a place where, for example, if you're a woman who just wants to go at the end of the day and have a beer by herself, you can do that without anybody hassling you. You'd be surprised. It can be difficult. And that is not just a thing about, dating or places that are meat markets or whatever. It's also just about the vibe of a place and where you feel comfortable. And he really strove to make Pale Moon Brewing Company a place where everybody can go in and feel comfortable. And I am always down for that.
Exactly. I mean, there's nothing more than when you're in that mood that you just want to sit and hang out with your community and have a beer.
Right? And he points out
that's
like
a
that
nice
it's like
environment.
It's like a $6 beer. I mean, it's pretty simple. And when you look at pictures of the place and when you walk in the room, it's also pretty stripped down. It's just very like, this might be the minimalist beer surrounding that you need at the end of the day, like a palate cleanse, if you will.
Well, and its location is wonderful because maybe you can have a couple of beers and be ready to go deal with the crowd in Safeway.
Oh. I don't know. Do you need the beer before Safeway or after Safeway?
I'm beginning to think that I need to work this into my routine because the Arcata Safeway is a little crowded. It's very cramped. It gives me a bit of anxiety. So maybe I need to bring it down a notch.
No, I feel you. And I'm glad that you've articulated this because as a person who is a veteran of some very cramped supermarkets, I thought I was tough. I thought I could handle it. And I went in there one time and got run down by students. And yeah, so maybe.
Now everybody has a new routine. So enjoy, check out Pale Moon. And that wraps up our time for this week. Thank you, Jennifer. The current edition of the North Coast Journal is available on newsstands tomorrow. Pick up your copy, or of course you can find it online at northcoastjournal.com. I am Tanya Schrum. Thanks for being with us and staying informed and supportive of our North Coast community.